So yeah, if you just want to say your name, introduce yourself, and then what you do.
Sure. Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I am 33, and I am a divorce attorney.
Yende Mangum. I'm 20 years old from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm a sophomore at Princeton University.
Rosa Beamer, and I am 23.
Hi, my name is Naila Madison. I'm 46. I know that's like really old to a lot of people.
My name's Devin. I'm 26, currently live in Philadelphia, and I am a practicing gay man in a long-term relationship.
Yeah, so I think that I have different answer for that question depending on what time period of the history we're talking about marriage in. I think that historically, if we're talking about, when marriage is codified into U.S. law, we're talking about women as property, essentially. And I say women because it's, explicitly women at that time are what is seen as the property. But as we look, more and more to kind of like more recent history, the ways the laws changed around the institution of marriage is almost sometimes empowering, depending on the couple or the person or how you shape your own marriage, because it gets to be a contract between two people to merge their lives and finances. And in particular, when you have a scenario where women begin to enter the workforce, or we begin to recognize marriages between people that aren't men and women, you have some protections for groups that may otherwise not have had financial protection. Women or non-binary individuals who chose not to work and stay at home and either homemake or take care of children now have more financial security for, their unpaid domestic labor to be compensated.
So marriage, I think, like so many other things, is one of the most beautiful ways we can interact as people. And in many cases is a true union, when you have two people joining forces, joining causes to become a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts.
I am very cynical about marriage, just because I have just never been exposed to a healthy marriage in my life and in the people that I'm around, and just the way I was raised. Besides like movies and things, I think marriage is very much like romanticized, and it's very like idealistic, and it's not, I've never seen it and just been like, oh, that's like an ideal relationship that I would want to be in. Starting from my parents, like my friends' parents, I'm Ethiopian, and the way that marriage works in an Ethiopian household, especially in Ethiopia, it's very unbalanced, very sexist, very much unfair in a lot of ways.
I've actually been divorced about 12 years now. I have a son who's 22. He's awesome. I was raised in a sincerely family values type household. So basically, when I was dating my son's father for about 4 years. So when I got pregnant, it was like, okay, what are we gonna do here? And from that we got married. So I think marriage is important because I believe in setting that foundation, just so this person is connected to you. And my views about that have changed. Obviously at that time when I got married, I was like, we're married, this person is always going to be there for you, so you have that foundation. But people change.
I think when I was coming of age, marriage was on the mind quite a bit because people who arranged their romantic and sexual lives, like me, did not have a legal right to do it. And so that, I think, just made marriage a particularly salient question, not only looking at, like, should I get married or should I have the right to get married, but, like, what do married people have and what do married people get out of the arrangement? And especially now, as I try to trace my family genealogy, I see the different marital arrangements that have taken place in my family. There's been, like, you know, I had a great-great-grandfather where I could see he was divorced 4 times, and one of his wives was a quarter his age. I see there was an ancestor who was imprisoned for bigamy at a moment. Marriage in my own family has taken a number of different forms. In my lifetime, everyone who has gotten married has stayed married, which I know is somewhat atypical. So that has really informed how I see marriage. You know, as I do gender studies in my life, or as I did, I'm used to the idea that marriage is first and foremost a contract, or first and foremost a property arrangement. But I think there are meaningful questions that have come up now that there's certainly not less property involved in marriage contracts and arrangements now, but it's just not the same. It doesn't have the same focal point. It doesn't have the same emphasis, and something perhaps better has come out of that. Something has filled that void that actually might be good.
I would say that there are legally, I know in America there are benefits to being married, that the law will treat you more as a unit than as an individual, which can be very helpful in many cases. But I think the extent to which those laws around marriage affect people's conceptualizations of marriage is greater than it should be.
If you are a person who wants to get married and you're not able to, then yeah, you know, that's a huge issue. One of the areas where that's really overlooked currently is people with disabilities. So like if you receive financial aid from the state in certain contexts for disabilities and you wanted to get married, you may lose that support, which I think is really unfair and limiting people, and sort of saying to someone that like their adulthood and their personhood is not equal, and I don't find that acceptable. But I think that in general, if you're just a person who doesn't want to get married, I'm not sure that you're like missing out on some big life event that you should have done, and you've missed something that you're failing on. I think you may be the kind of person who wants to think about it as a true financial contract. It might be a situation where you like don't want a wedding or anyone to know you're married, but you might want to file paperwork and protect yourself and do a prenuptial agreement. But you can do any number of relationship, you know, models that don't include marriage. And particularly when we are dealing with people who are polyamorous, you might have a situation where you can only legally marry one of your partners, and so the other party can be kind of left out of custody arrangements or divorce arrangements even. Yeah, you can't really talk about marriage without talking about divorce.
I was actually the one that initiated the divorce, so, you know, when people hear I'm not married, they're like, oh, well, what did he do? It was me. So, you know, so it wasn't that type of thing. You know, but as you get older, sometimes people grow in different ways. He thought my background is in doing entertainment-related things, events, national tours, marketing, that type of thing. And I was that way when we met. He's a lot more of a stable, grounded person. He's actually a teacher now. And so he thought when we got married that, you know, we had this child, that I was going to, like, want to be home and raise the child, even though, you know, we both had jobs, but he thought I would cut back on what I was doing. Yeah, no. You know, like, you knew who I was when we got married, so it's like now you're expecting me to be less of that, and that wasn't going to work. So that caused all kinds of problems, especially if you're able to, if there were income differences and situations like that, that's one thing. But, if your job actually allows you to live your life, then why would you not do that? That made no sense to me. So that wound up causing problems in the relationship. But I do still believe in providing that foundation. Like marriage, when you go to get a divorce, is, I know I just jumped a whole lot of times, but it can be, it can make you rethink a little bit.
Yeah, I tell people like the day that you've come to me may be the worst day of your life, right? You may have just found out your spouse is cheating. You may have just found out that, your spouse has filed for divorce. You maybe have been struggling with this for a while. And I see people in really vulnerable states. And yeah, especially when there's kids involved, it can be really difficult.
There's a lot, I think you'll hear a lot of talk about how the average household size has gone down. And so when you think about household size, of different populations or of different income levels, of migrant groups, you're constantly, as a planner, trying to predict, how many new housing units do we need in this community, at what income levels, of what typology, do we need new ownership units, do we need new rentership units, do we need new subsidized units, do we need subsidized units that are large, thinking about large family public housing units, or do we need lots of senior apartments for single seniors? And so thinking about the changing role of marriage in different communities, in different regions of any given geography, that has a direct impact on my work as somebody who's going to be trying to arrange where new housing is, where new jobs are, where roads are, sewage, all that kind of stuff.
For me, the benefits of marriage come in two different ways, right? Both like emotional connection, family building, having a sense of legitimacy toward your family that you've chosen to build, even if that's two people. I also think that comes with financial stability. It comes with, if you are going to be doing something like purchasing a home, if you are not married and you are to separate, then your recourse to divide this investment that you've made with another person is a long, drawn-out legal process that can take significantly longer and cost significantly more than a divorce. The divorce actually can go quicker. We have a court set up to deal with these issues specifically. And so that offers you a little bit of financial protection.
I definitely think our generation is redefining what marriage is to them, and I think that's really cool. And I think if I were to get married one day, there definitely would it would definitely need to be redefined for me and my partner. And I like the idea of partnerships instead of wife, husband, gender roles, this person does this, that person does that. So in a lot of ways, I think it needs to be redefined as a whole.
Some of the other benefits that one could imagine is just I don't know, I like having people around. I really do like having a partner nearby. I don't live with my partner. Obviously, my partner and I do live in the same city, though, so it's been quite helpful. We didn't before.
I think when kids are introduced, having a partner and having somebody there with you helps a lot. And I think in my experience, too, I have 3 little siblings, and my parents were kind of in their own world and in their own problems. So a lot of it, I think it was really unfair on them. I don't know, me too. There was just a lot of responsibility and a lot of different things that I think they definitely should have taken care of, where I think that they didn't. So in things like that, I definitely feel that having a partner is something that's amazing when raising kids, and I think kids should always be brought into a healthy, great environment for them to prosper. So having that a partner is really cool. Not that one person can't give a kid a fulfilled life, but I think always just having somebody to come to is really cool. And I think if somebody chooses not to get married, I don't think they're missing out on anything at all. Even for me, when I think of my future, I'm not really like, I don't envision like somebody being there or whatever. It's just like, I think you can find your own happiness, and that's like, society just makes us believe that you need to be married and we need to have this like perfect American dream life to be like happy, when that's not necessarily like true. And I think you can redefine it and make it your own, and I don't necessarily think you need to be married or do that whole thing to find happiness and peace in your life.
I think more than um just marriage as a term, the idea of having a relationship between two people is so crucial and fundamental, because it's so much more dynamic than a person is. If this one person, another person, there's all this free space in between that can be shaped and molded into whatever is good, whatever is beautiful for either or both of those people. So I think um really, like I said, marriage is a subset of relationship, right? But what's important is that relationship. And oftentimes I think we gravitate to marriage because it's recognized in society that there is a relationship between these two people, that this relationship, because we've seen this type of relationship over and over again, we know that it has these qualities, which may be strength and love. But when we take a step back and see it for what it is, and we see there's this relationship between these two people that has all these beautiful things, it doesn't really need a name. But what it is a beautiful connection that can be shaped into what is perfect for each person. And so yeah.
Yeah,